guest book a gracious tribute. This talk was given in 1948 at a dinner sponsored by the Chinese Culture Society in honor of Mahatma Gandhi, India's freedom, and the cause of peace. On this occasion, Paramahansaji and Dr. Hugh Macbeth were speakers. Following are highlights from Paramahansaji's tribute. Two kinds of prophets come into the world. There are qualitative prophets who mold their faithful disciples into great souls. And there are quantitative prophets who influence the masses, so that vast multitudes are inspired and receive some light from the presence of such a master. Some masters do both, but by these qualitative and quantitative standards we may judge all the prophets of the world. Qualitatively speaking, I have met many great Christ-like masters with whom I have lived and about whom I have written in my book, Autobiography of a Yogi. But quantitatively speaking, I think that since the time of Christ there has been no single individual whose life and ideals have influenced the masses more than Mahatma Gandhi's. Christ's teaching of loving enemies was never better demonstrated in the life of one individual in modern times than in the life of Mahatma Gandhi. By ordinary standards, he was considered very homely, but when you looked into his eyes, you could see the universality of his soul. Then a vast concourse of spiritual thoughts overpowered you. He was shrewd, he was joyous, he had great faith in God. Though he did not develop qualitative Christ-like souls, as did some of the masters of India, God sent him into the world as a prophet who for the first time, unlike other great spiritual leaders of the world, went beyond his flock and influenced the great masses of people politically. Even thick-headed politicians who had always believed that violence and brute force can conquer. Brute force destroys itself. Originally, when men clashed with each other, it was because one clan had more than another, so they fought for each other's property. In this way, from prehistoric days down through the Christian era, the karma of thousands of wars gathered like a snowball into the First World War. And what did it accomplish? It only accumulated in its wake more trouble, more disaster. The Second World War came, and now when we analyze the results, don't we wish that we had the world as it was before this devastation occurred? As Jesus Christ and Gandhi said, if you use the sword, you will fall by the sword. Man's use of the atom. The snowball of bad karma is growing bigger and bigger, and now the politicians are speaking again of war. Why? They should know very well they will not be safe, not even in the White House or the Kremlin, because the atomic bomb has spread the threat of devastation everywhere, affecting combatants and non-combatants alike. On the other hand, we can see that the Lord has given unto man, through the great scientists, the use of atoms, and we know now that the latent power in droplets of water could furnish the city of Chicago with enough electricity to keep it running for 3 days. If constructively used, this atomic energy could bring the millennium. It could eradicate all the slums of the world. Man would not have to work more than 2 hours a day. But remember, nothing can bring about the constructive use of atom power unless man realizes that he is not a brute, entitled to use brute violence, and concentrates instead on brotherhood. Only brotherhood, the warmth of brotherhood, can melt the colossal ever-increasing snowball of war karma. So this is the time to preach brotherhood. No matter how dark you think the picture is, do not be too discouraged. I know there is a God who gives to the nations of the world what is for their good. They reap good or bad results according to their karma, and very few realize that the good karma of America and the good karma of India are on the ascendant. Let me remind you that no power on earth can destroy the idealism of India and the spiritual democracy of America. I know that the atomic bomb is a very bad thing, but I know also that it is better in the hands of America than in the hands of anybody else. I wish and pray that America will never again use the atomic bomb, but will destroy the need for all bombs and thus stop the growing snowball of bad karma, war karma, that is destroying the fraternal warmth of the world. Only by love, by adhering to the principles of Christ and Mahatma Gandhi, can this be done. Gandhi's treasure. Mahatma Gandhi was laughed at by his enemies, scoffed at by ignorant people. Many cartoons have been drawn to ridicule him. And still in his life he had shown that evil travels with the wind, but the power of truth travels against the wind. He demonstrated that. I was talking once to a band of students who criticized Mahatma Gandhi because he did not provide any financial security in the form of bonds for his wife or children, and his son recently announced, "Father has not left us anything." I am going to write to him, "Your father has left to you, to us, to all the millions of people in India, and to every nation, the riches of the spiritual truth he proved, that political freedom can come to 400 million not by the sword nor by the firing of a single shot, but by the power of love." Mahatma Gandhi's son has received freedom. All India has received freedom by spiritual means through Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi has left a richer world today, a world in which the practical power of these spiritual truths of love and understanding, which was laughed at before, has been effectively demonstrated before the mouths of cannons. Once in Bombay, the native soldiers of the Indian Army revolted and were firing on and killing English people. It is alleged that Churchill threatened to send an army to bomb India out of existence. Then Mahatma Gandhi wrote to him saying, "You don't need to do that. I will stop them." And he went to them amidst the shots that were being fired. They stopped firing, and he said, "Peace unto you. You will not gain freedom by killing a few British people. Conquer them by the greater force of love." They remained peaceful, and Mahatma Gandhi by his appeal got the British to forgive the native insurrectionists. I said that after the war India would be free. It was predicted in our magazine East-West. I was laughed at for saying this, and for declaring that this world war Roman II was being fought for the freedom of India and all downtrodden nations. Yet it has come true. India would never have been free if this war had not come about. God did not bring about this war, but because people believe in war and create karmic causes, there is war. God does not need to use atomic bombs and miracles to destroy the devil. The devils kill themselves by using power wrongly. But we find that Mahatma Gandhi conquered by the literal application of the methods of Jesus Christ. Facing death. Never has any religious or political leader been so honored at his death as Gandhi. He is even more powerful today than when he was alive. He retained his powers and exemplified his teachings to the very end. Only 1 week before his death, he was the target of a bomb, which barely missed him, but he asked his followers not to be hard on the traitors. He said that God was keeping him there to do a little more work, and that when it was done, God would take him away. The night before his death, he told his grandniece, Abha, bring the important letters. I'll sign them. Tomorrow it may be too late. He knew his time had come. Such a man is Gandhi, who has freed India, who has brought the non-violent method before all bull-headed politicians and proved it an effective method. Mahatma Gandhi was of God. He may not have been as great as Christ or the masters I knew, but he knew God. When he was shot, he had a smile on his lips and made a sign of forgiveness with his hand. With that gesture, Gandhi was asking the Father's forgiveness for his assassin. This was as inspiring as Jesus' words on the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." What of the future? Gandhi is living today in the hearts of men, to remind them that violence is the law of the brute. When brutes such as the big saber-toothed tiger infested the earth, they didn't rule the earth. Man, by superior intellectual power, overcame larger, more powerful creatures, even without being equipped with machine guns. The President and Stalin should remember that if the strong destroy each other, the meek shall inherit the earth. The spiritually meek shall never be destroyed. Their weapon is Christ's method, loving the enemy and conquering the enemy by love. This is a time when God is bumping the heads of communism, imperialism, capitalism, all isms that believe in the power of force. I make one prediction now: the world is not going down to destruction. So don't be frightened. Believe in your Father. He will protect you if you remember His ideals, if you keep faith in Him. We are moving upward. The 1200 years of the material cycle have passed, and 300 of the 2400 years of the atomic age are gone. Then there will be the mental and the spiritual ages. We are not going down. No matter what happens, the Spirit will win. I predict this, and that America's democracy and practical material power combined with India's spiritual power will prevail and conquer the world. Anybody who uses the bomb motivated by aggression will fall by the bomb, but I know that in the hearts of America and India there is no love of violence. As Hitler with all his power fell, so any dictator wherever he is shall be downed. This I predict. Publisher's note: the following words of Paramahansa Yogananda's, written in 1951, put into perspective the Master's view of war. Wars of aggression and suppression are heinous crimes against the heritage of humanity as freeborn children of God. A war thus motivated is unrighteous action by the aggressor, and it is not unrighteousness to defend ourselves against such evil. To protect one's country and its helpless citizens against evil is righteous action. Spiritual power is the greatest force. It should be the bulwark behind every form of resistance and defense. The first line of action should be to use all spiritual and moral power possible to counter evil, and to strive to change the world's inclination to war and violence by removing the causes that strengthen evil: poverty and hunger, disease, injustice, greed, and selfish interests. If in the last, evil force has to be met with righteous force, the Bhagavad Gita advises the Kshatriya, the soldier, to not waver, but fulfill bravely his God-given duty. Chapter: Nations Beware. 1937. Why do world suffering and world misery arise? When people all over the earth are happy and prosperous, they are in tune with God, and the entire vibrations of the earth in relation with the planets are harmonious. But, as soon as one nation starts fighting with another, or selfish industrial gourmands try to devour all prosperity for themselves, it brings depression. And when depression starts in one place, it begins to spread everywhere owing to the vibrations that travel through the ether. The last World War, I created wrong vibrations in Europe first, which then spread all over the earth, and where there was no war, influenza appeared. The agonies of the people who died in the World War created the subtle cause of the epidemic of Spanish influenza, which immediately followed the war and killed 20 million people, while the war itself killed about 10 million only. In the present Spanish Civil War, vibrations of the death struggles of thousands of men, women, and children are floating in the ether, causing floods in America, storms in England and Portugal, and earthquakes in India. And so the peoples of the world, instead of creating more conflicts and getting into wars, should try their utmost to use peaceful means and non-cooperation, for example blockades, to stop war. The murder of thousands of Ethiopians who didn't want war and the vibrations of injustice done to them has upset the equilibrium of the world. For no one can get away with disturbing one part of the world without the disturbance moving through the ether waves to other parts of the earth. If people in one part of a house are disturbed, then the entire household is bound to be disturbed. After the Ethiopian conquest, the dread of war left as an aftermath of the last World War vanished. Many nations are again enthused for wars of aggression. The Ethiopian War was a war of aggression. The war in Spain is a war of aggression. According to the League of Nations, a war of aggression is untenable. But, since the world ignored the divine mandate and divine rule of outlawing wars of aggression which came as a great lesson from the last World War, the world is again headed towards the self-created, Satan-influenced possibility of a greater world war and greater destruction. The depression is caused by the sins of the last war, and if another world war is started there will be very little for the population of the world to eat. So it is better that the nations of Europe do everything possible to avert any wars. Right patriotism. Another thing, patriotism can be evil when it doesn't mind its own business. When, instead of being used to keep intact the prosperity and happiness of its parent nation, it gets into international complications by wanting to spread its territorial influence, it destroys its own national well-being, the very thing for which patriotism stands. On the other hand, those patriots are foolish who think that they would lose national advantages by espousing international patriotism. For international good includes the national good, and partial national good should be sacrificed for international good. But, if the national good acts against the interests of international good, it will defeat its own purpose. National selfishness that disregards the international well-being brings national as well as international disaster. Ye nations of the world, beware. Use your patriotism to protect your own country and do not get mixed up with any other nation that advocates aggression. All nations should unite and non-cooperate in every way with those nations that want to start wars of aggression. Nations of the earth should get together to find ways to mitigate the causes and effects of such nature-created calamities as disease, floods, droughts, sickness, earthquakes. Man should not add to the natural catastrophes by the avoidable self-created tragedies of poverty, lack, suffering, and death due to wars. For it is evident that self-created calamities and wrong vibrations of war and industrial selfishness bring about natural calamities. The state of Texas in America could produce enough wheat and corn to supply the whole world. Why is there any starvation in the world today? Because of man's political and industrial selfishness, which is against the divine laws of cooperation, mutual service, and sharing God-given prosperity properly among the nations of the world. If people would follow the laws laid down by Christ, love thy neighbor, and give all ye have, then there would be no poverty suffering on earth today. The politicians are blinded by their patriotism, selfishness, and love of fame. Disregarding the divine laws laid down by God and voiced by great saints, they are bringing an avalanche of miseries upon the nations of the earth. Follow the dictums of saints who are the true children of God, and not the dictums of Satan. We wish every true child of God of every nation would non-cooperate with Satan in war, and work in every way to establish constructive, international peace and prosperity and spiritual happiness in their own nation and in all nations. Let us eradicate all wrong misery-producing sense of false patriotism and establish in every world citizen the true international patriotism of brotherhood, peace, mutual goodwill, and mutual mental, hygienic, industrial, social, scientific, philosophical, moral, and spiritual progress and happiness. Chapter: A United World with God as President. I am so very happy that all of you are here today. I wish the dais were large enough so that all who have helped to make India House a reality could be up here with us. It is a day of rejoicing made possible by my boys, the monks of Self-Realization Fellowship, who have built this place. Here the people of East and West can have a cultural exchange of intellectual and philosophical experiences. Now, Orient-wise, we will meditate. Please sit upright. Exhale your breath twice, remain calm. Do not concentrate on respiration or muscular movement. Relax completely. Bid adieu to the world of sensations, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and go within where our soul expresses itself. From the factory of the soul emerge all experiences of our inner life. The body means nothing when the soul, the intellect, and the life have flown. So let us concentrate on that from which our being emerges. Know thy soul. Dismiss all sensations of the body. Dismiss all restless thoughts. Concentrate on the thought of peace and joy. Behind closed eyes you are beholding a mass of darkness, a sphere of darkness. Expand this ball of darkness until it surrounds this hall. Go on expanding it more and more until it encompasses the city of Los Angeles, beloved America and all its states. See the whole world in this sphere, floating like a bubble. Now visualize the expanding ball shimmering with a subdued light and joy. In this luminous joy see the planetary system, the Milky Way, the roaming universes, and the oceans of electrons and protons that surround them, all floating in this great sphere of light and joy. Thou art this boundless ball of light and joy. Affirm within, in me the worlds are bubbles. Let us all say together, in me the worlds are bubbles. Meditate on the thought that in this ball of light and joy are all churches, temples, mosques, all nations of the earth, all worlds of God. In that universal consciousness we want God to guide us to establish here on earth a United States of the world, through brotherhood and peace, so that here and in the hereafter we shall realize we are one with God, made in His image. We are no longer the little human beings we see through our physical eyes. Our inner eye of intuition is open. Heavenly Father, in this meditation we find Thine omnipresence. Though Thou hast limited us in this cage of the body, still with closed eyes we behold, through the eye of intuition, infinitude above, infinitude below, infinitude on the left and the right, everywhere. Therein we know that we are made in Thine image, even as Jesus Christ and the great masters realize this. Expand your love to all nations. The great ones are the models. Though their bodies were finite, they realized within that they were a part of the infinite ocean, that all individualized forms are the waves of the cosmic sea. In this world we circumscribe ourselves within a little family. When we love our neighbors, we become bigger. When we love our country, we become bigger still. When we love all nations, we become even bigger. And when we are one with God in the hereafter, or by deep meditation while we are still here in the body, we realize truly that the ocean is the wave, and the wave is the ocean. I love India because it was there I learned to love God and all beautiful things. But that love I do not keep for one nation alone, for this whole world is my India now. I love America as I love India, for she has been my second home. India and America represent the best of the East and the West. I believe a cultural exchange between the people of India and America will bring about a solution to the unsolved problems of the world. All mankind will become true citizens of the globe, with the United States of the world established in every heart, and God as president. This statement may be utopian, but what have most politicians done? They have brought wars and wars and more wars. I have no boundaries. I know God is our Father and we are all His children. The true spirit of America and the true democracy is that in which all nations find unity, as in India all religions find unity. Not long after I came to America, I asked a Hindu college student, "What do you think of the Americans?" Evidently he considered himself on a very high seat above them, for he told me, they are like little children. Oh, I replied, then I am going to get along with them very well, for if such is the kingdom of God, as Jesus said. Become a smile millionaire. I believe in America, because I know America does not institute a single war just for selfishness. America has given generously to the whole world. I have watched this very carefully. All the things I wanted for India, I find that American people have. But one thing I noticed, even in the villages in India where people had perhaps only a little handful of rice to eat, those people had smiles in them that many American millionaires don't have. As I pass along the streets of America, I look into the thoughts of the people, and all I see, dollar bills swirling in their brains. If I had a few more dollars, I'd be happy. Money is necessary. There hasn't been a saint who didn't use it in some manner for the necessities of life or for the well-being of others. But money alone isn't enough. I have met many millionaires, but I found they were not happy. Happiness lies in first becoming a smile millionaire. Against all odds, you must try to smile from within. That will do you good. The time to smile is not only when everything goes right, but also when everything goes wrong. That is what the East teaches. And if you can't smile, stand before a mirror and pull on your cheeks so that the corners of the mouth will turn up. When I hear, oh, he was a millionaire and a very successful man, but he died of heart failure, I want to be an Easterner and sit on the banks of the Ganges and meditate. But when I see the poverty of India, then I want to be an American and get busy with science and machines to alleviate human suffering. Being made in the image of God, we have the power to use our individuality and our will to do great things. This is a wonderful ability God has given us. Every time you look at your body of flesh and bones, you see yourself as small and limited. If even a little thing happens to your body, if you start sneezing, or if you hit your hand hard and break it, you realize your smallness. But when you close your eyes in meditation, you see the vastness of your consciousness. You see that you are in the center of eternity. Concentrate there. Take a little time in the morning and the evening just to close your eyes and say, I am the infinite, I am his child. The wave is a bulge of the ocean. My consciousness is a bulge of the great cosmic consciousness. I am afraid of nothing. I am spirit. That is the teaching of the East. You need that realization. Finding God gives great comfort and happiness. If you keep a little time for God, it will give you great comfort and happiness. That is why Jesus said, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart. If you are saying the Lord's Prayer, but thinking of a chicken dinner or a duck roast, the Lord knows that you don't want him, so he doesn't come. Concentrate on God alone, without whose power you cannot move. Just as ships at sea can be moved by radio-activated power, so God moves us by his power, which flows into the medulla oblongata. When the divine power leaves the body, you are dead. Why don't you think of the source of that power? God does not deny you comforts. Jesus said, but seek ye first the kingdom of God. Why? Because the nest of all happiness lies there. And all these things shall be added unto you. Neither be ye of doubtful mind. I own nothing, yet I have everything. Sometimes I have given away my last dollar. But I was never left out. God has always provided for me. I am very rich in that respect, even though poor outside, poor not by compulsion but of my own willingness. If I have my Father with me, what riches more can I want? That is the teaching of the East. That is what all Americans need to remember. Behind the dollar, behind all your efforts, is that great power. And if that power wishes you to have the right job, the right anything, you will have it tomorrow, if you are in tune with God. Everything was given to me that way. And I gave it all away to the cause, that I be not a slave to anyone or anything. I never call myself a preceptor or a master or a guru. I only know that I killed myself, and I find none else within me, but the Heavenly Father. When you will kill your ego, you will find the same being within you. As all lamps of a city are lighted by one dynamo, so all of us are lighted by God. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? Why do you think that Jesus Christ was recognized as the Son of God? Because he was our example, as the great masters were. Unless you become like Christ, there is no meaning to these words. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. The diamond and the charcoal are both made of carbon. But the diamond receives the light and reflects it, the charcoal doesn't. Charcoal mentalities are those who are always complaining. The world is bad, I have a headache, I want this, I don't have that, I can't succeed. Always the negative spirit. But the brilliant diamond mentality affirms, it doesn't matter what happens to me. I shall make my way, for God is with me. Such a one receives the light, and ultimately, through material, mental, and spiritual evolution, he becomes like the Father. Do not in any way minimize the power of the little wave that has been battered by the big waves. Somebody needs to say to it, little wave, what's the matter with you? Don't you see that the whole ocean is behind you? You are a bulge of the great ocean. Don't look to your little body, look within. The meditation that I gave you is of utmost importance. You will see how vast you are. You are everywhere in spirit. So my friends, remember this, the East should be your preceptor in spiritual things, not minor superstitions. And the Easterner should realize that God has not spared the East suffering just because of its spirituality. The Orientals should consider the wonderful Americans, who have succeeded in driving away malaria and many other diseases, as their preceptor in material things. By the constructive exchange of the best of East and West, we shall build a United States of the world with God as our president. Chapter: Is God a dictator? The question that is today's subject has perhaps never before been the topic of a spiritual lecture. I ask God all kinds of questions, he is never dismayed. And no matter what the question is, the divine being always gives me the most wonderful answer. You too can speak openly to God. If you will remember that, you will find great satisfaction in the understanding you will receive from him about the anomalies of life that have mystified you. Man came on earth uniquely endowed with individuality and free will. He was put here to evolve his intelligence, and thereby rediscover and express his true nature, the soul, a reflection of spirit. He was to gradually develop his innate intelligence, not merely through books or lectures and sermons, but also through his own efforts to exercise his mind and improve the quality of his thoughts and actions. The Bible tells us that we are made in the image of God. But that image is certainly not apparent in all men. Though the light of God is in all equally, we cannot deny that it is more manifest in some than in others. If the light of God were fully manifest in all people, then human beings would remain constantly in their native state of perfection. But we see that in most people there is room for improvement. They have yet to evolve to a higher level of intelligence. The flexibility of human life shows that there is a divine power lodged in all. That some show greater development than their fellow beings simply indicates that they have made more effort. You may ask, well, if divine intelligence is in all, why are some people born morons? To answer that fully, we would have to look into their past incarnations for those unwise actions that brought about this sad result. But there is no question that every man is made in the image of omniscient God. And if the hopeless condition in the brain of a moron were corrected, his soul would be able to manifest more of its native intelligence. The history of leadership. Looking back through history, we see that as some individuals developed more intelligence than others, they stood out from the crowd and became leaders. Their leadership was gained and secured through demonstration of physical prowess. The strongest and cleverest of the tribe became the leader. In this way, different clans developed. Gradually, to become stronger in order to accomplish common purposes, several clans united under one leader. Those leaders became kings elected according to their demonstration of physical power and intelligence. But some of them abused their position and became tyrants. They further established that their descendants were to be the successors to the crown. The right to rule by virtue of birth, rather than capacity, vitiated this form of leadership. The evil crept in because even if the kingly offspring was physically, mentally, or otherwise unqualified, he nevertheless inherited, and usually insisted on exercising, the right to rule. In some cases, incompetent heirs were manipulated by scheming ministers in their service. So we see that the system based on inheritance was defective. Some nations eventually became weary of this kind of tyranny and rebelled against their rulers. Many kings were slain and others dethroned. Then came the idea of a republic. Countries such as France and America chose to have presidents elected by the people. George Washington qualified himself for this position by all he did to help bring freedom to this land. He loved this country and had its highest interest at heart. He was a real president. Under his able leadership, this great land took its first important steps as a new nation. Lincoln, too, was an exceptional leader. But what crept in to obstruct the perfect ideal of government of the people by the people and for the people? Though presidents are elected by the citizens' vote, the system is flawed by graft and other inequities. Often the best talker gets elected. We all know how people love to eulogize their own good qualities. Such a person can also talk against others for hours and never think of the time, but he will not talk about his own faults and doesn't like to be reminded of them. Those who feel qualified to castigate others for their failings should be willing to stand up and confess their own shortcomings too. But politicians know they won't get elected that way. So sometimes they get the votes simply because of their shrewdness in putting themselves over through their speeches. Then after they get to the top, they do just as they please in spite of all their promises to the people. Voters don't really know a candidate. Usually they are not in a position to make a personal judgment of his character. They know only what they read or hear about him. If he is said to be capable and a nice person, they feel inclined to vote for him. But where is the ground for judgment? Where is the standard of truth with which to measure each politician? None has been established. Thus the masses too often are swayed by propaganda and sentiment without really knowing what is going on. Even an unworthy candidate can get votes if he has the money for a good publicity program. But it is wrong to advertise how good he is if he hasn't the qualities to back it up. The system of voting for candidates is spoiled when money rather than merit can make the difference in getting someone elected president, and politicians, unfortunately, have a reputation for seeking out the moneyed people for help. Worthy candidates without such contacts may remain too little known to attract the voters. Of course, to be wealthy is not necessarily to be involved in influencing elections. I have always admired Henry Ford because he has done much good with his money for worthwhile causes in this country, and throughout the world as well. Proven merit through good works should be one of the criteria for the election of leaders. To a large degree, voters are dependent on and hence controlled by what is printed in the newspapers, but I think people are getting away from that kind of influence. It used to be a common attitude in India that if someone said, "I read it in the paper," people automatically took it for granted that it must be false. Newspapers are often biased, and this makes people skeptical. Truth and sympathetic justice, not expediency and exploitation, will restore integrity to news reporting and re-establish people's faith. So we find that though democracy is the best ideal, the present system of voting is extremely inefficient because the decision too often has to be made on what the candidate says about himself or against others who are running on the ticket. Too little attention is paid to the real character of the candidates. If only saints and others who are truly capable of analyzing character went to vote for our leaders, we would be assured of a good president in the White House. We would always have worthy ones to guide us. A truly great president is one who looks to the good of the nation first, and includes in that the well-being of the whole world. So because of the discrepancies in the voting system, we get some good presidents and some bad ones. Still, this democratic system is certainly far better than any other present-day alternatives. Inept kings and those who rule by force cannot be demoted without violence, but the people can lawfully replace presidents who prove unworthy. Now we come to the modern age form of dictatorship. Dictators are a classic example of politicians who make promises and then break them after they get in office. Dictators usually start out with the desire to help their people, but while they may be loyal to their own country, their self-interest makes them very disloyal to all other nations. Through jealousy and overzealousness, they bring trouble to the whole world as they rise to power. When they get to the top, they begin to rule by force to prevent anyone else from taking their position. Right or wrong, their word is law. This is the flaw of dictatorships. In the beginning, the dictator gains power by doing some good for his people. He stirs their faith in him because he rules by merit. But when he gets to the top, he rules by force. In one sense, God is a dictator. Now comes the question, is God a dictator? Certainly not in the context we have just discussed, but in one sense he is because he created us against our will. Isn't this true? We did not ask to be created. Who told him to create us? That is the one question God does not answer. I often tell him he had no business to create us and put us in a body so susceptible to disease and suffering. Even a car has parts that can be easily replaced from time to time, but not this human machine. You have a right to say to God, Lord, since you created me, redeem me. This is the way you should pray to him. You are his responsibility. The pattern of creation is set by God. Why did God create women, men, and animals and identify the soul with the particular limitations of consciousness peculiar to the form in which it is encased? It is in this sense that God is a dictator. Animals have no chance to improve themselves, they remain just as they are, bound by instinct. And human beings take advantage of the poor creatures. We don't wear shoes made of human skin because humans would resist that idea. But we feel free to take the flesh and skins of animals because in the God-created order of the world they cannot defend themselves against man. I say that in these ways God is a dictator. But, just the same, he is responsible for us because we are thrust into this world without being asked if we want to come, and without being told why we are here. Yet we can see that his purpose must be good. This whole creation shows that it is the work of some great intelligence. There are the senses through which we perceive and relate to this world. There is food to satisfy our hunger, and we have been given the ability to look after this body and fill its other needs. Each life form follows a more or less set pattern. The average life of man is less than 100 years. The redwood tree lives up to 4,000 years. After a relatively short time, the ordinary house plant dies, no matter how carefully you look after it. Some insects live only a few hours. All this shows that there is a dictator who has ordered things as they should be. He has set the standards by which all living things are governed. Spiritual dictatorship. Now the difference between the leadership of Joseph Stalin and Mahatma Gandhi is an important one. They both rule millions of people, but Gandhi is a spiritual dictator. He leads through love, not force, and people follow him out of love, not fear. Similarly, I think God can be said to be a spiritual dictator. If he were to come on earth in human form with all his wondrous qualities unmasked, which he could very well do, everyone would follow him without question. He does come, but in the guise of his avatars, in whom he keeps his powers partially hidden so that he might play a specific human role for the good of man. Thus God was born as Jesus, who let himself be crucified even though he could have destroyed the world with a glance. He who could raise the dead could certainly have annihilated his enemies by the command of spirit within him. Followers of Jesus expected him to be an emperor of this world. But instead he wore a crown of thorns, and by so doing he became a real emperor, ruling the hearts of millions through the ages. Where Napoleon and Genghis Khan today? They are mere chapters in history books. But in every nation there are those who love and follow Jesus. The life of Jesus shows that God is not like the ordinary dictator. He is almighty, yet he does not use his power to destroy his enemies. You can curse God, deny him, and call him all the evil names you want. He will never punish you for those insults. But because you have filled your mind with evil thoughts, you won't be at peace with yourself. God refuses to dictate to his children. God has created this universe to run according to law. If we break one of the cosmic principles, we punish ourselves. Jump from the top floor of a high building, and your bones will be broken. You can't ignore the law of gravity without experiencing the consequences. So in this world man can act freely only within a limited scope. If he goes against divine laws, he will punish or destroy himself. In the sense that God has established inexorable laws, he does seem to be a dictator. But the fact that he himself remains absolutely silent and calls us only through love proves that he doesn't like that role. If God spoke to us directly, we would in that instant lose our free choice, because we would immediately feel impelled to obey him. We couldn't resist his wise and loving influence. For the same reason, no saint has been permitted by God to exert spiritual force to change the world. Great saints have tremendous power. My master could raise the dead, but he never used his power to force the world to change. If people are shown miracles, they will be attracted by phenomena instead of being drawn to God out of the soul's spontaneous love for him. So God does not allow any saint to draw souls to him by the use of spiritual power in a way that imposes on the free choice of those souls. Down through the ages, in fiery speeches, prophets have warned that God himself will come out of the clouds to destroy the wicked. But God has never done that. When people are evil, when they break his divine laws, they set in motion the cosmic forces that produce the inevitable consequences of their wrong actions. Thus they punish themselves. I don't think God himself has ever come down to chastise anyone. If that were his way, he would be punishing wrongdoers right now, for he knows who is right and who is wrong in this terrible war that is going on. God is humble and has hidden himself. He doesn't want to come and say to mankind, I am God. You have to obey me. But he does try to keep us from harming ourselves by speaking to us through his laws and through great souls. Christ said, He that is least among you all, the same shall be great. He who is truly humble in the eyes of God is like God himself. Man should be taught universal patriotism. Through the misuse of our freedom, we have made our earth what it is. Once we understand this, we have the explanation of everything that takes place here. There is always plenty of money for war, but there is never enough to rid the world of slums. Do you see the false reasoning? If all world leaders were educated to be like Gandhi or Lincoln or Christ, there would be no more wars. For this reason, I submit that an important advancement toward peace would be the creation of world cities where orphans of all nations could be taken and raised together. They should be given not only academic education, but also the highest education in cultivating soul qualities and spreading by example the brotherhood of man. National patriotism based on selfishness has been the cause of many disasters and untold suffering all over the earth. Therefore we must teach, along with patriotism, the brotherhood of man. When the seeds of brotherly love take root in the hearts of people, wars will cease. Consider how much discrimination there is in the world. We have an example in America's citizenship laws. People from European countries can become citizens, even though they sometimes turn out to be gangsters. But souls like Mahatma Gandhi and other great men could not become citizens because they happen to come from disbarred nations. I never feel self-conscious about such laws. Wherever God places me, that is my country. And in loving that nation, I include the whole world. This is the ideal to be taught to all. Some worthwhile ideas from Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon wrote a perceptive treatise that gives a stimulating food for thought. He tells of a party of voyagers who had been blown off course by strong winds and found themselves in a new and unfamiliar region. They came to a wonderful island on which was cradled a beautiful city. An official wearing silken robes of azure blue came out to the ship and invited the lost travelers to stay for a time with their people. The city was a scientific utopia. Marvelous discoveries and inventions were disseminated to the citizens from a place called Solomon's House, whose members consisted of exceptionally learned men, the shooting stars of the arts and sciences. All were of noble and scientific mind, interested in truth alone. Foremost purpose of their research was to reveal for the benefit of man the wonders immanent in God's creation. The progress and well-being of this utopia were thus dependent on and guided by the finest people of the community. India in its golden age went even deeper than this, holding to the ideal that leaders of the people should be not only scientists but saints, because scientists without spiritual realization can be blind to the true highest good of the people. In those ancient times in India, wise saints advised the ruling kings. Leaders of men should be guided by great souls. The earth's problems would then be solved, because saints who love God look to the good of all, and would not institute in any country unjust laws that would foment troubles. Great saints look upon the whole world as their kingdom. Therefore the saints have always advised kings to keep harmony not only in their own country, but to help promote it in other countries as well. This requires the broadness of spiritual patriotism, which opens the borderlines of nationality to embrace all. Gandhi has said that his India consists not only of Hindus, but whoever loves India and follows truth, no matter what his nationality or religion. And when we think of Lincoln, we think of another wise and understanding man. There may be more like him today. Many a flower is born to blush unseen. Man's worthiness and desire for trustworthy leadership must be there to encourage such noble souls. Then gradually they will reveal themselves. To come back to the utopia of Francis Bacon's story, he had a royal imagination. The people of that land had an excellent practice. Representative scientists were sent at 12-year intervals to different countries all over the globe. Their mission was to learn the language and study the constructive laws, the newest discoveries, and the best customs of those nations. When they returned to their island, the highest of what they had learned was introduced into their own culture. Everyone lived in peace and harmony, willingly obeying the just laws of that land. We have to make a start somewhere. People have not been educated into this kind of unselfish thinking. That is why it is not possible yet to have a utopia on earth. True happiness for all can come only under the spiritual government of the soul. We have to make a start somewhere. In governments there should be a standard and exchange of highest wisdom. It is starting even now. In the government of India, there are certain chairs for philosophers. But this is not enough. Ordinary exchange of trade between governments has created wars. Merchants of wisdom would bring such understanding between nations that all participating countries would learn how to exchange and share material commodities without fighting. This must come to pass. Don't think that the world is going backwards. We will gradually come to this state. The war will help to clean out politics. It will bring to light many of the causes of the ills of the world. Just think, in peacetime, anyone who bombs a house is put in prison. But in war, the person who destroys masses of homes gets a medal for it. What a wonderful concept. We must begin now to put into effect new concepts, spiritual ones. Don't minimize your own abilities, for the Almighty Father is within you. The minute you recognize that power within, you will be able to do great things. The ocean consists of drops of water. If the drops were taken away, there would be no ocean. And there would be no works of God in this world without us. Think in terms of the whole world when you think of what service you can render. You are made in the image of God, and must not look upon yourself as a frail human being. Develop your love, that you can give it to your nation and to all nations of the world. God wants you to know that you are sent here to develop love for your world family. Incarnation after incarnation, death takes you away, that you may not become too clannish and too identified with only one nationality and a few loved ones. Jesus showed us the way. He loved his mother dearly, but he loved all other people of the world too. It is God who animates all beings. Two boys were watching some potatoes boiling in a pot. One said, "Look, brother, the potatoes are jumping up and down." The wiser boy said, "But it is the fire that makes them jump." God is the fire that animates all beings. You think you are doing everything. You forget that it is God who is working through you. It is God who loves through you. It is His love alone that expresses through all forms of love on earth. Friendship is the purest love of all. In that love lies the potential to love the whole world, for true friendship is unconditional. Loving your family is just the first lesson in learning to love all mankind. The world has come to the state wherein it is essential that we be schooled not only in patriotism, but also in divine brotherhood. Jesus said, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." Every nation must love every other nation as its neighbor. A dictator wouldn't give us the right to throw him out. So we may say that in creating us without our consent, God is a dictator. But, on the other hand, he is not a dictator because he has given us complete freedom to throw him out and never think of him. That is why some good people who never even think of God seem to get along all right. If God were a dictator, he would say, "Oh, there is that man. I will fix him so that he will have to think of me." But God doesn't do that. You will not suffer so long as you follow his laws, even though you have totally forgotten him. It is only when you break his laws that you punish yourself with suffering. But God's laws are subtle. It is difficult to avoid breaking them without seeking his help. So, even though God has all physical, mental, and spiritual power, he doesn't use it when we go against him. You may curse God every day of the year and he won't punish you for that. But love him and he will come to you. He is working through love to draw you back to him. Though God has given us freedom, he also realizes that we are still very much hemmed in by our own self-imposed limitations. Therefore, he has given us intelligence through which we can get out of this mess. We have no one to blame but ourselves if we don't use that intelligence rightly. Even God can't help us if we break his laws and bring suffering upon ourselves. Some people go through life dull-minded, eating and sleeping, enjoying a few pleasures, very seldom thinking deeply. So many people don't really think. They have the consciousness that material life is everything. But this life is only a passing dream. So why should you live trying to please the world? Better to try to please God first, and then you will better be able to please all. God will eventually give freedom to everyone, but it won't come to you until you have used rightly your free choice. Otherwise, there would be no point in his having given us free will. Animals have no freedom. God bound them by instinct. But in man he has implanted wisdom. Human beings have the free choice to go up or down, to become better or worse. And since he has given us this freedom, he remains silent, because he knows if he talked to us, we would be totally influenced by him. He would be able instantly to convince us against doing wrong. And if he did that, he would indeed be a dictator. So even though he is almighty, he can't do anything for us that will interfere with our free choice. Do you not see that? Therefore, because he keeps himself out of our decisions, remaining quiet, hiding his power, he is not a dictator. He knows we are in trouble, but there is no way he can redeem us unless we cooperate with him through our own effort. By our own free choice, we alone decide whether to accept him or cast him aside. You are potentially equal to God. Another thing, ordinary dictators never want anyone else to be like them. They are inimical to each other because they want to be unique and supreme. But God is not